Hello and welcome back to my YouTube channel. So today I'm going to be talking about the 3 main causes of binge eating and how to overcome them. So I also have linked below a freebie, which I like to add a freebie to all of my videos and my blog posts. So a freebie around, which is a masterclass on overcoming the emotional eating. So it really gives you one big step that you can take, and a really actionable step that you can take to really progress forward in your journey of overcoming the emotional eating. So I highly recommend getting access to that, which I will link in the description below. I also just wanted to mention before I hopped into the 3 reasons that oftentimes it is a mixture of these 3 things and even more things as well. So don't feel like it's going to be just one or the other that you have to tackle or work through. It often is more than one. So that is just something that you should really keep in mind while kind of listening to this video and kind of looking at your own situation and what could be going on for you. In terms of binge eating, the first main cause of binge eating is restriction. So in this instance, what I mean by restriction is by not allowing yourself to have certain foods or limiting the amount of certain foods you can have. So this could look like limiting carbohydrates, so telling yourself you can't have bread or you can only have a certain amount of bread, or it's those sorts of limits on things, and really restricting the amount of the things, or just not having the things in general that we're having. So by telling ourselves we can't have these foods or we have to limit these certain foods to a certain amount, we really are putting those foods onto a pedestal and making them better than the rest. So by doing this, we really do increase the chances of us binging when we do eventually have those foods, or we do cave in and have those foods, because we are really at a psychological level really craving that food and wanting that food because we're telling ourselves no. So that is one of the main reasons that kind of causes the binge eating, and also in terms of how we feel about these ourselves when we eat these foods. So when we are telling ourselves we can't have certain foods or we need to limit certain foods, we're really inadvertently or on purpose, we are calling this food bad or putting it as a treat sort of food. It's something that makes us naughty, or like we're not being good when we eat it. So by doing this, we do inadvertently cause more negative thoughts towards ourselves when we are eating these foods, or when we're thinking about ourselves eating these foods, which obviously feeds into negative thought patterns around ourselves and just food in general, when in reality food is neither good or bad. So food can provide us with, depending on what it is, it can provide us different amounts of nutrition compared to other food. That is how I like to describe it, and how I really try and teach my clients to kind of look at it and see it, so that there is no good or bad. To really overcome this restrictive sort of mindset towards certain foods and restricting certain foods, we really need to, like I described around the good versus the bad food, we need to really try and get rid of that sort of thought, those sort of thought patterns around food, and really view food as what it is. So really just food that can provide us with nutrition, different levels of nutrition, different nutrients, different vitamins compared to other foods. So really kind of letting go of that good versus bad way of looking at the food. Another thing we can do to kind of try and overcome this restriction is to really remember why we're wanting to make these changes. So focusing in on nourishing our bodies and taking care of ourselves, rather than feeling like we're punishing ourselves or having to restrict ourselves to really fit some certain mold that we're trying to aim for. So really just focusing on the nourishment over the restriction. So I also have written a blog post on the subject of including more healthy foods into your diet without feeling like you are dieting. So I'm going to link this below, and this kind of goes over other ways and how you can kind of include more foods, nutritious foods, and kind of get away from that whole restriction. So the second main reason that we could be binge eating is because we are not eating enough. So, and this is more in general, so we may not be eating enough calories through the day, or we may not be eating the right amount of nutritious foods that we need, so we're not getting all the nutrients that our body needs. So we are not eating enough of those sorts of whole foods and the foods that are going to really help us in feeling good and nourishing us. And yeah, so by doing this, obviously you may notice at the end of the day, if you are doing this, if this is one of the reasons, is you are feeling really hungry, and the binging kind of tending to happen at night is often a reflection of this as well. Obviously it can be to do with emotional eating and stuff too, but a lot of it can come back down to the basics of just not eating enough throughout the day, not fueling our bodies right or enough. So that is really important to recognize if that is what's causing the binge eating. So if one of the causes of your binge eating is just not eating enough throughout the day, obviously to overcome this we need to be eating more. So when I say more, I mean really focusing in on those whole foods and nutritious foods that are going to really fuel us and nourish us and make us feel great. Like that's what we kind of want, is to feel good. Like, and even if weight loss is a goal, that we can still have both. We can still be nourishing our bodies and taking care of ourselves while we lose weight. So don't feel like that is not something that can happen. You do not have to go to bed feeling hungry to lose weight. That's just not true at all. So yeah, in terms of that, I have written a post around why calorie counting is not the answer for long-term weight loss and what you should do instead. So I'm going to link that below, and it kind of dives into this a bit more around how to really add in more whole foods and really focus on this rather than focusing on the restriction and calorie counting or calorie restricting. Third main cause of binge eating is avoiding feelings. So when I say this, you may immediately think, no, that's not me, like I'm definitely not doing that, it's definitely just the hunger and stuff. But I think it's really important to pull yourself up and really have a think about what could be going on when you find yourself about to binge at night, or whenever it is, when you find yourself about to binge, really ask yourself, is there something I'm trying to avoid here? Is it definitely just me having not eaten through the day, or is there more to this? So really getting curious to know why you're binge eating is really powerful to be able to actually obviously overcome it and understand what's going on and why it's going on. So yeah, to be able to overcome it is really important to understand the triggers of the binge eating when it comes to emotional eating. So if it is certain thoughts and feelings that are coming up that are causing you to turn towards the food, really being able to pick up on those things that are going on so that you can actually move forward from it. If we don't recognize why we're binge eating, or like why we are turning towards food when we feel a certain way, it's pretty tough to be able to even expect ourselves to be able to overcome that, because we don't fully understand why we're doing it. And anything we're doing that avoids dealing with these feelings is really just continuing this avoidance, but in a different form. So for example, obviously distraction can work, like it really can in the short term, maybe even in the long term, but there comes a point where the binge eating hasn't been dealt with. The emotions that have caused the binge eating haven't really been dealt with, so it is something we can fall back into. So it's really important to really be able to recognize these thoughts and the feelings that are causing the emotional eating, but it is emotional eating, but the binge/emotional eating to happen. So it's really important to, this awareness is like definitely the first step to being able to do this. And also, side note, this is one of the things we really go through in the masterclass that I talked about at the beginning of the video, if you're wanting to learn more about exactly how to do this. So that is the 3 main causes of binge eating. Obviously there's more, like I've said, there can be more reasons that you're binge eating, but these are the 3 main ones that I often see as a nutrition and life coach working with people who do struggle with binge eating and emotional eating. So these are often the ones that are really big in our lives that cause us to keep binge eating, and we need to address to be able to overcome the binge eating. And like I said, there often is a mixture of reasons for the binge eating, so just being very aware of this. So I hope you found this helpful, and let me know in the comments if what you found the most helpful about it, if you've kind of had any realizations just from kind of listening and taking notice of what the binge eating could be, the reason for the binge eating could be for you. So yeah, I post videos every week, so make sure you subscribe, and I'll see you next week.